Hello, I'm Jill Wilson, and this is my crop evaluation video for HORT 4050. So to start off this video, here is a general overview of what I'm going to touch on. First, I am going to talk about the plants and what we did with each of them, as well as some little fun facts and personal notes thrown in. Afterwards, I will show a brief timeline of the process. Then I will discuss what I think I excelled at and what I needed to do better on, and I will wrap things up with some pointers for future students. So to start things off, we had some poinsettias. These are a staple Christmas plant given that they bloom around the holidays, and they have a pretty long growing season. That said, these were our first plants we planted. We did them as a plot up from transplants. Since planting, they required consistent pruning, watering, and fertilizing to keep them looking their best. They grew pretty quickly, so we did eventually treat them with Psychocell, a growth suppressant, so they wouldn't get too big and unmarketable. Lastly, we performed some pH and EC measurements on these plants weekly. The next plant we planted were the Gerbera daisies. Fun fact, these can come in every color but blue. That said, we grew 3 different varieties, including autumn, chardonnay, and strawberry. These were also a transplant pot-up, and we used the same media as prior. They required consistent watering, fertilizing, and flower pruning as the flowers grew quite quickly. We each did our own experiments, testing growth treatments where I applied Psychocell using a drench method. So the next plant was monsteras, better known as the Swiss cheese plant. These are typically houseplants, but they require a lot more care compared to succulents. We grew ours from seed in our sun-grow substrate and topped them with vermiculite. It required thorough watering, but not as much water as some other plants. It also did not require fertilizer, but some was sprayed on it here and there throughout the semester as I fertilized my other plants. Next, we planted some perennials, including asters, coreopsis monarda, spring king salvia, and solidago. All of these were planted in the same tray from transplants. They required regular watering, fertilizing, and flower pruning. None of these, except for the salvia and aster, really looked marketable, so I did not really take any of these home, but if they were more presentable, they would have made really great bedding plants. On the same day we planted those perennials, we planted succulents, also from transplants. They do not require as much watering, obviously, so every class period they would just get a generous sprinkle to help moisten the soil. Being that they are pretty low maintenance houseplants, these plants unsurprisingly turned out great compared to some of my other plants, and I was able to sell all of them, which I thought was pretty neat. The next class period, we potted up some annuals, including 2 different varieties of calibrachoa, 3 varieties of petunias, 2 more varieties of salvia, and 3 different varieties of verbena. They were all pretty similar in terms of care and finished product to the perennials we previously touched on. However, my petunias were what really looked good, especially the black satin ones, which I now have growing in a small hanging basket at my house. Next, we did more transplant pot-ups, including planting pansies, ornamental kale and cabbage, and violas. They also had the same requirements as the other flowers, but they do really require water, which is something I learned the hard way, as this was my worst trait. The last day of planting, we planted herbs from seed. We did some perennials like these ones shown, so mountain mint, Greek oregano, and German wintertime. We also planted some annual herbs like basils and cilantro. All of these herbs were topped with vermiculite after they were seeded to promote growth, and they did grow very well. I was actually able to take all 6 of these herbs home and use them over Thanksgiving, so that was pretty cool. Here is a pretty basic timeline of what all we did, showcasing when everything was planted, when we first started fertilizer solutions and Psychocell treatments, and when each of our plants were taken home. So essentially, it's everything from August to December. I excelled at keeping the plants alive and keeping to a consistent schedule, but my plants did not all look market ready because I underwatered pretty heavily during the first half of the semester. Things looked wrong, but I haven't really taken a class that has taught me what overwatering and underwatering looks like until this one, so I kind of just went on assumption, which was very foolish of me and it really cost me. All in all, had I asked for help when I first started thinking there was a problem, my plants would have done so much better. So I can only recommend that you go and ask for help when you think you need it. I also recommend students keep to a very consistent schedule because this is super important in the greenhouse industry. Alright, that is all I have to share. Thank you so much.